Have you ever had that feeling where a past event isn't just a story you tell, but something you can still physically feel? It's because trauma isn't just a memory that lives up in your head. Nope. It's actually a physiological state, a whole collection of reactions and sensations that get trapped in our nervous system, and they just keep playing out long, long after the event is over. This quote right here, it just nails it. Think about that phrase in incomplete biological response. When we face a threat, our bodies are literally hardwired to either fight or run away. But what happens when we can't do either? Well, that massive surge of survival energy has nowhere to go. It gets stuck. It becomes, just like the quote says, frozen in time inside our own bodies. So in this explainer, we're going to break down exactly how this all works. First, we'll talk about how trauma really lives in the body. Then we'll get into the actual operating system of our nervous system with something called the polyvagal ladder. We'll look at neuroception, our body's silent danger scanner, and the 4F survival modes it kicks off. And finally, we'll wrap it all up by talking about why understanding this stuff is a total game changer for healing. Okay, let's start with the absolute most important idea here. Trauma is not the bad thing that happened. It's the energy, the residue that gets left behind and trapped in the nervous system when our body's defenses just get overwhelmed. So you can see here on the left, you've got the event. That's the story, right? The car accident, the tough childhood. It's a memory. But on the right, that's the trauma. And that is a very real physical state happening in your body right now. It's the reason why a certain sound can make your heart race, or why you might feel on edge all the time and not even know why. It's your body still trying to finish that survival response that got interrupted. So how does our body even manage all these responses? Well, this brings us to the incredible work of Dr. Stephen Porges and his polyvagal theory. You can think of it like a map, a revolutionary map for the hardware of our own nervous system. Basically, polyvagal theory shows us that our nervous system isn't just a simple on-off switch for stress. Not at all. It's way more sophisticated. It's a hierarchy with 3 different modes, all run by the super important nerve called the vagus nerve. This whole system evolved to keep us safe, and it's what dictates pretty much how we show up in the world. And a really great way to picture the system is like a ladder. At the very top, we have our state of safety and connection. In the middle, we've got mobilization, fight or flight. And down at the bottom is our oldest, most primitive survival response. Our bodies are moving up and down this ladder all day long, based on the signals they're getting from the world. At the top of that ladder is the ventral vagal state. This is our happy place, our biological home base. When we're here, we feel calm, we feel connected, we're curious, we're engaged. Our nervous system is getting the signal that we're safe. And this state, right here, is where healing truly becomes possible. But, what happens when our body picks up on a threat? Bam! It kicks us down one rung on the ladder into the sympathetic state. This is our get up and go system. It floods us with adrenaline, preparing us to fight or to run. Super useful if you're, escaping a tiger, but when we get stuck here long term, it looks and feels like chronic anxiety, panic, and just being constantly on high alert. Now, what if fighting or running isn't an option? Or if the threat is just completely overwhelming? Well, our body slams on the emergency brake and drops us to the very bottom of the ladder, the dorsal vagal state. This is our most ancient survival tactic, immobilization, the freeze response. This is where we feel numb, disconnected, hopeless, maybe even dissociated. It's the body's last resort to survive by just shutting down. So we've got this ladder of states, but how does our body decide which rung to be on from moment to moment? Well, the answer isn't in our conscious mind. It's in a process called neuroception. I mean, really think about that. How does it make that split-second, totally automatic choice to feel safe and social, or to gear up for a fight, or to just completely check out? Dr. Porges actually coined the term neuroception for this. It's like our nervous system has its own built-in surveillance system. It works completely outside of our conscious awareness, 24/7, just constantly scanning our environment for cues of safety or cues of danger. And it instantly shifts our entire physical state in response. And what's it scanning for? Oh, pretty much everything. It's listening to the tone of voice someone uses, not just their words. It's watching their facial expressions, their posture. It's sensing the vibe of a room. And it's also checking in on our internal world. That gut feeling you get, that's a real neuroceptive signal. And for someone with a history of trauma, this scanner can become way too sensitive, seeing danger everywhere, even when it's not actually there. So, okay, The polyvagal ladder and neuroception, that's the biological hardware that creates these physical states. But how does this all translate into our everyday behaviors, our personality, the way we relate to people? Well, that's the software. And this is where the work of therapist Pete Walker is so fantastic. He identified 4 main behavioral patterns, what he calls the 4 Fs, which are actually brilliant adaptations that we develop as kids to survive situations that are just too much to handle. This is where you can really see the connection between our biology and our behavior. For example, the fight type learns early on that being powerful and in control equals safety, so that can show up as being defensive or controlling later in life. The flight type becomes an expert at escaping through being busy. Think workaholism or perfectionism. The freeze type learns to survive by becoming invisible, which can lead to isolating or feeling numb. And then there's the fawn type, who figures out that safety comes from making others happy, which can turn into a lifelong pattern of people-pleasing and losing touch with your own needs. And here's the most important thing to get from all this. These are not character flaws. This is not who you are. These were brilliant survival strategies that kept you safe. Your symptoms, your reactions, they make perfect sense when you know the backstory. You are not broken. You are injured. And the best part is, injuries can heal. Which brings us to our final and maybe most important point. Why does any of this matter? Because understanding the biology of trauma completely flips the script on how we approach healing. This knowledge creates such a profound shift inside of us. It moves us away from that heavy, shame-filled question, what's wrong with me? And it moves us toward a much more compassionate and curious question. What happened to me, and what amazing ways did my body figure out to keep me alive? That shift, right there, from self-blame to self-compassion, is the first giant leap toward healing. So here's the bottom line. Healing is not about willpower. It's not about just thinking more positive thoughts. It's about creating real experiences of safety inside your own body. Because when our nervous system can finally experience that deep, autonomic safety, it can start to climb back up the ladder to that place of connection and calm. Safety is the foundation. Everything else is built on top of it. So let's just do a super quick recap. Trauma is physical. It's in the body. Your nervous system has a 3-state ladder. It moves up and down. That movement is controlled by neuroception, your body's automatic threat detector. Your behaviors, like fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, were smart adaptations to survive. And really getting this on a deep level is where true healing can finally begin. And we'll leave you with this one last thought to chew on. What if we all just stop trying to fix the parts of ourselves we think are broken? And what if instead we turn toward those parts with curiosity, maybe even a little admiration, for how brilliantly they adapted to get us through? Just imagine, what might change then?